Cracking the code. Cracking the code. Cracking the code. Dun, 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 dun. Cracking the Code 3rd edition. Better book and cassette of American publishers. Cracking the Code 3rd edition is copyright 1999, 2000, 2002, Better Books and Cassette in America. All rights reserved. No part of this property, common law copyright material contained in this book may be used or reproduced for the purpose of financial gain, i.e. profit for the sale without express written consent. Well, that's alright, because we're putting it on YouTube, so that's alright. And all such use is strictly prohibited. Penalties for unauthorized use are set forth in the details of the opposite page. That's right, because it's on YouTube, so it's free. So it's not for profit then, is it? This book is solely for information and educational purposes, not legal advice. The reader is advised to consult a licensed legal professional for assistance with any legal matter. Success stories contained herein are representative results attainable upon application of the information and educational material provided, but no guarantee is made. Individual results may vary, depending on the diligence of the party applying the material. Cracking the Code 3rd edition is intended for the personal use and enjoyment of all people of goodwill worldwide. Am I goodwill? Yeah, good. That's for me then, isn't it? The intent of the authors in sharing this information is for furthering the cause of freedom, understanding, and happiness in accordance with such timeless principles as know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, and he who helps others helps himself. Okay, good. The contents of this book are private in entirety and non-negotiable between the authors and the purchaser/reader. Cracking the Code 3rd edition, Better Books and Concepts. Okay, bbcoa.com. Copyright Notice Security Agreement. All rights reserved regarding Cracking the Code 3rd edition. Common law copyright by Better Book and Cassette of America. No part of Cracking the Code 3rd edition may be reproduced in any manner for purposes of commercial gain, in other words, profit from sale, without the prior express written consent and acknowledgement of Better Book and Cassette America and hereafter secure party. The trade secrets, intellectual property and contents and pattern of collective application of sample documents, i.e. copyright notice, private agreement, hold harmless indemnity agreement, security agreement, attachment sheet, private collateral list, UCC financing statement, UCC financing statement amendment, notice by written communication security agreement, respondent's private international administrative remedy demand, invoice, verified statement of account contained in the practical section of this manual or common law, copyrighted property and are imprinted here with the permission of the copyright holder. Common law, blah blah blah, all rights reserved, reproduction and use of the aforementioned trade secrets, intellectual property and sample documents contained in the practical portion of Cracking the Code 3rd edition, as well as all the other written material contained in Cracking the Code, is authorised only for personal, non-commercial, non-profit making purposes, with the intent of being contractually bound. Any juristic person, as well as the agent of said juristic person, consents and agrees by this copyright notice security agreement that neither said jurisdiction person nor the agent of said juristic person shall use for commercial financial gain the name Cracking the Code 3rd edition, nor any of the aforementioned copyright material contained herein, without the prior express written consent and acknowledgement of the secure party, as signified by said secure party signature in red ink, and in the case of common law copyright, trade secrets, intellectual property, and the contents pattern of collective application and sample documents contained in the portion of the Cracking the Code 3rd edition, the prior express written consent and acknowledgement of said common law copyright holders signified by said common law copyright holder's signature in red ink. Boring! I could probably learn a lot by reading all that. That's why I was reading it. Kind of thought I might learn something, but bored now. So, there is no subtler, no surer means of overturning the existing basis of society than to debauch the currency. The process engages all the hidden forces of economic laws on the side of destruction, and does it in a manner which not 1 in a million is able to diagnose. John Maynard Keynes, economist, member of the Order of the Illuminati, and economic consequences of the peace. Okay, 1919. Fair enough. Fair enough, if you insist. Let's just change that little sidebar to thumbnails, then we can see what we got then. So what page are we on? Mr. Speaker, we are now here in Chapter 11. Members of the Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. Congressman James A. Traficant Jr., Congressional Record, March 17, 1993, Volume 33. That wasn't long ago. On sovereigns, we of this mighty Western Republic have to grapple with the dangers that spring from popular self-government tried on a scale incomparably vaster than ever before in the history of mankind, and from an abounding material prosperity greater also than anything which the world has hitherto seen. As regards the first set of dangers, it behooves us to remember that men can never escape being governed. Either they must govern themselves or they must submit to being governed by others. If from lawlessness or fickleness, from folly or self-indulgence, they refuse to govern themselves, then most assuredly in the end they will have to be governed from the outside. They can prevent the need of government from without only by showing they possess the power of government from within. A sovereign cannot make excuses for his failures. A sovereign must accept the responsibility for the exercise of power that inheres in him. And where, as is true in our republic, the people are sovereign, then the people must show a sober understanding and a sane and steadfast purpose if they are to preserve that orderly liberty upon which, as a foundation, every republic must rest. Okay. President Theodore Roosevelt. Opening of the Jamestown Exposition, Norfolk, Virginia, April 26, 1907. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law. Yick Woe v. Hopkins, 1886. Woe v. Hopkins. Interesting. Absolute rights. As regards right to interfere with contractual obligations of another, absolute rights which individuals may exercise without reference to motive are rights incident to ownership of property, rights growing out of contractual relations, and right to enter or refuse to enter contractual relations. Right, I'm going to read that again because I didn't get that. As regards right to interfere with contractual obligations of another, absolute rights which individual may exercise without reference to motive are rights incident to ownership of property. Rights growing out of contractual relations, and right to enter or refuse to enter contractual relations. Right, I don't get that. I don't get the point. I don't know what's being said there. By the absolute right of individuals is meant those which are in their primary and strictest sense such as would belong to their persons merely in a state of nature, and which every man is entitled to enjoy, whether out of society or in it. The rights of personal security, of personal liberty and private property do not depend upon the Constitution for their existence. Yeah, the rights of personal security, of personal liberty, of private property do not depend upon the Constitution for their existence. They existed before the Constitution was made and the government was organised. These are what are termed the absolute rights of individuals, which belong to them independently of all government, and which all governments which derive their power from the consent of the governed were instituted to protect. That's quite a nice little paragraph, isn't it? Words and Phrases, Volume 1, 1968, West Publishing Company. Blank page. Good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is this immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash. 'Tis something nothing, 'twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to 1,000. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him, and makes me poor indeed. William Shakespeare. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrower dulls the edge of husbandry. Sorry, borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. Yeah, it's true, but... Okay, contents. Maintaining fiscal integrity, practical... Okay, I'm not going to read all the contents, let's just get stuck into it, yeah. Okay, preface. This isn't too painful. This book has been written for the purpose of showing anyone how to successfully withstand and nullify unsolicited demands for payment or performance from attorneys, banks, judges, clerks of court, police, taxmen, government agents, anyone else who would casually and unjustly damage one's life, and cease being muscled into doing business with such parties against his will. Any who proceed against the Redemptor after having been noticed are vulnerable for both immediate and long-term grievous and catastrophic personal, financial or commercial ruin, thereby providing adequate motivation to look elsewhere for a more compliant customer. As abundantly documented herein, the judicial system may be accurately defined as a private invitation-only, cultic, British-owned and operated commercial extortion racket. That is a great description! The judicial system may be accurately defined as a private invitation-only, cultic, British-owned and operated commercial extortion racket, with only an apparent monopoly over the transference of wealth and control of personal freedom in this country. The prescriptions contained within the pages of this manual can set you free of this menace. Yeah, that's cool. In America, as in any communist country, Big Brother's modus operandi consists of bringing down the full might of the government upon any unlucky citizen that crosses paths with its divine agenda, absolute ownership and control over all property and people. Few, if any, can withstand such an assault. Operating in limited liability with official immunity, Big Brother's operatives wreak holy hell on a daily basis against any they choose, but continually walk away from the carnage unscathed. For those who follow the precepts as presented in this manual, such days are numbered, or not over. The procedures appearing in this volume, if scrupulously followed, can render any legal attacker immediately liable and fully personally accountable for his or her actions, should he or she proceed. The right medicine for anyone suffering from a case of the more equal than thou syndrome, and the best reason to halt all proceedings. Cracking the Code 3rd edition offers a new plateau of stability and is orders of magnitude beyond the first two editions. The process is tried and true and cannot be defeated if followed without alteration. The non-judicial Uniform Commercial Code non-judicial Uniform Commercial Code has been cracked and is now utterly accessible for anyone who would examine the contents of this manual. As you will discover, the assurances made in the preceding paragraphs are not hollow chatter. This text can set you free. The treatises, essays, and historical material contained in this book are all on solid legal ground. It is not a matter of if we are on the right trail or not, it is rather a matter of how well we read the trail markings we encounter, because the remedies described in this manual are working like crazy north, east, south, and west, and the successes contained herein will free you of the ranting of any critic. Let's just look at the footnotes here. Redemptor, Latin, one who buys back, reclaims, one who has reclaimed legal title over his life and property. Number 2, all 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto are firmly entrenched in daily American life, deeply implanted in America's psyche, and thoroughly dispensed in an ocean of code, i.e. law, as well as innumerable eminently qualified judges. A prime example of this phenomenon is the former California Insurance Commissioner Chuck Quackenbush. In addition to padding his own political career and lightly lining his own pockets and the pockets of his cohorts, this man was personally accountable for the ruination of the lives of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of California families whose homes were damaged, destroyed in the 1994 Northridge earthquake by officially letting insurance companies off the hook to the tune of billions of dollars. Okay. In animal form, the brilliant little analogy of communism by George Orwell, the original sacred 7 commandments were continually altered, deleted, for favouring the pigs, the leaders, until in the end there was only one commandment left. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. The main failing with professional and amateur critics is that particular vocation does not involve helping people and getting things done. It just involves tearing down things that might help and stopping others from breaking free of Big Brother's clutches, an occupational calling hobby with a marginal sanity index. When you come across someone who is preoccupied with stopping this process and saying how bad it all is, realize that the critic is a company man, obsessed with infecting all with the venom of statism, and does not have your best interest at heart, and likely never will. An honourable critic would bring forth another solution, i.e. another remedy for the situation at hand, rather than just sounding a general hue and cry and proclaiming that all sheep should stand stock still and accept their fate as part of life. Okay, I'll come back in the next video.